Whenever you think of the word crash, what comes to mind? You probably think first of a car crash or a plane crash, maybe a financial crash or a crash of a civilization, something like that. But what if I told you that there is a crash coming in the world that will be so shocking and so stunning the world will not believe it? It'll be the crash that will stun the world. And it's a dreadful thing to contemplate, but there is some good news in it for the believers. So I just want to add that as well. Now, where I came to study this and find out about this crash is in the book of Revelation. There is one verse in the 18th chapter that states, it's verse 4, and it states, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins and receive of her plagues. And I remember reading that chapter and I thought, that's a wonderful description of what God would advise the church to do in America, I think. But there's only one problem. It comes at the very end of the book of Revelation. I was thinking the book of Revelation at this point is going through the tribulation and getting ready for Armageddon. I say, why would God say, come out of her, my people, when it's so late and nobody's going to be coming out of the tribulation except possibly Israel, because it will be the one that is most affected by the tribulation and will be the factor in the world that gets the most benefit from receiving Christ and being delivered during the tribulation. There will be people saved during the tribulation, and there'll be mostly people murdered. But if they do accept Christ at the right time before they're executed, they will be counted in the Lamb's Book of Life, and they'll be saved. So why would God put that there? Well, many people think that the Book of Revelation is out of chronological order. Some people say that it's some things that should appear at the end of tribulation appear earlier on, and there's more horrible things that appear out of sequence. I really think that the whole story of the tribulation and the book of Revelation is sort of a compressed form of everything that goes on in the tribulation, and it may seem to be out of place because it seems like it's all bad news, and you may think something worse is happening too early, and it should be put in later. So it's a little bit confusing. I would agree with that, but overall, I think it's it covers the bowl judgments, the vials, all the other woes that God puts out through the earth during its time. It's the time of God's wrath on rebellious humanity, and for the Jews, it's called the time of Jacob's trouble. So that is what the tribulation really is. So I thought, why would it be there? But then I thought, okay, if it seems so perfect for America, why don't I look at the whole book of Revelation and see if it matches up with the America that we know today and the trouble that it's in. Okay, so the first verse of Revelation 18 reads, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory. And he cried mightily, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, of every foul spirit and cage or prison, of every unclean and hateful bird. So here's a place, habitation of devils, every unclean spirit, every foul spirit. To me, that is a description of everything that is beyond the imagination that you would think of in terms of evil. And looking at what things have been coming out of America lately, the transgender movement, the woke movement, the fentanyl, people not caring if the fentanyl comes in over the borders and kills thousands of people, sex trafficking, people that enjoy the fact that you can kill a child at the day of his birth, and they don't care a thing about it. Doesn't bother them at all. They celebrate it, celebrate death in that fashion. A general coarseness and love of violence and arrogance beyond belief, and then the whole issue of this was a surprise to me that the issue of sex trafficking, I was amazed to hear, is more of a problem in the USA than in any other country. Now, you would think that in some of the poorer countries of the world, that there would be almost an economic necessity. People get so desperate they have to sell their child into sex slavery. And so it would be more prevalent in these impoverished third world countries. But America, the richest country as it is, that shows a deep level of perversion that runs so deep it's very hard to fathom. And this is what I mean. This is what I mean, the habitation of devils and every foul spirit, evil, hateful bird. I don't know what the metaphor is for that. But anyway, so this is what, there's a sway of deception, there's seductions, there's wealth, there's wealth and ease and materialism out of control, and then there's easy redemption in things like prosperity theology. So it's a place that's so proud it can never be brought down. It has no capacity to show humility. That is a very scary scenario and a very terrible, terrible place for any country to be in. So this is a major point in me concluding this is really America. Okay, so then I heard, then I have to my verse, come out of her, my people, and the plague, receive not of her plagues like of Egypt during the Exodus. There's and I've covered all the other things, and these are plagues. And you see strange occurrences. You see in terrible weather patterns that we see. It's no surprise to me, to my interpretation of this book, to see that the natural disasters are more prevalent in America than anywhere. I mean, as far as the volume and the numbers. Of course, we have earthquakes. We have a tsunami in Indonesia. We've had major weather patterns, flooding, and all over the world. But they come one after another, and it's like this is what God is telling America, that you've sown the wind and will reap the whirlwind. Okay, so that is part and parcel to the entire scenario here, that the weather patterns are doing what they're doing. Sins have reached up to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. These have gone so far high into the heavens, they demand a response from God. They demand judgment from God. And then, in verse 6, he says to the saints, this is God speaking, reward to her even as she has rewarded you, and double to her, double according to the works in the cup she has filled up, fill up double. In other words, this has been simmering a long time. And he wants you to, the saints, he wants them to pray to God that he will send these judgments, okay? This is what they've got coming. This is what they have to know. And in my opinion, this leads us to the point where the rapture really does come as the only salvation, the only hope for the world, for those who are living in America. But I did say that there would be an escape for the people of God even before the rapture. But anyway, I'll get to that a little bit later. How much as she has glorified herself, this is verse 7, and lived deliciously, so much sorrow and torment give her. For she says in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Now, this reflects to me something that is so bizarre in the American consciousness. America is the most arrogant country On the face of the earth, I think easily the most proud and arrogant country. And they're saying, they say, anytime they talk about America in terms of history, they talk about American history, and it's like we're the greatest experiment in a democracy that the world's ever seen. You talk about the economic problems and the horrible debt that nobody could ever repay, and they say, well, never bet against the dollar. It'll never go anywhere. It's Europe has much more problems than the U.S. and China is on the verge of collapse. You'll just say every other thing, point to any other direction, and they'll never say anything. They'll never say it's time for confession, or it's time to repent, or it's time for national repentance. And this idea that Trump and some of these other politicians say that we can all come together. A country this fractured is an impossible dream. It's just an impossible dream, because it's like Jesus saying, "What concord has God with Belial?" You know, how can two walk together except they be in agreement? And that is so. This idea that in the last day, in the final analysis, we're all America, it's just ridiculous. And anybody who holds on to that, this dug in hardcore nationalism or patriotism as the salvation for the whole country in a unified whole. No, you can't live with devils, which is what about half the country is, and you can't unite them, because you've got to go in separate realms. They've got to be spiritual. There's got to be spiritual people, and there've got to be the heathen, for want of a better word, the pagans, the secular humanists, whatever you want to call them, and they go different directions. There's no uniting them. It's like water and oil. There's no uniting them. So that is God is saying no. I sit a queen, am no widow, and nothing's going to touch me. God says no. For as much as she lives, right? Don't bet against the USA. How many times have people say, the stock market's going up. They got currencies. They manipulate currencies. Everything's going great. Therefore, plagues shall come in one day: death, mourning, and famine. And she will be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who has judged her. Okay, plagues come in one day, yes. Sometimes one day, sometimes two within a week. Death, mourning, famine, oh yes. People have everything wiped out. Soon the crops will be wiped out. There's death, there's fire. Fire was definitely also a part of this judgment on this Babylon, fire. And of course we have the California fire, and then we have, now once again, we have the Southern California fire. So fire, mourning, plague, death. It's a culture of death, so that would be part of it. And of course with thousands upon thousands of fentanyl and drug overdoses and everything, we live in definitely a culture of death. Kings of the earth who lived deliciously and committed fornication with her shall bewail and lament when they see the smoke of her burning. So these are these who were commercially trafficking with the U.S. When they see the smoke of her burning. Of course, all these travel partners, all these trade partners we have in the world, they depend on the U.S. And now China is going to face tariffs. Trump's doing this tariff thing, and it could be well, because it could improve a little bit for the U.S. Economy, I suppose. But the fact of the matter is, they're coming to a point where there will be no trading with the U.S., and we'll see that in a little bit. You may remember when the tanker a couple of years ago. The tanker ran into the bridge in Baltimore Harbor, and it was one tanker, but it shut down the port of Baltimore, and that in turn caused a disastrous ripple effect all up and down the East Coast. And we saw, but just by that one incident, what trading can do to destroy economy if it's not guarded, if it's not practiced safely. And got these tariffs and everything. So the tariffs, we'll see just in a minute. They see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off, this is verse 10, for the fear of her torment, from the side of the Atlantic to the Pacific, saying, Alas, that great city Babylon, mighty city, in 1 hour is her judgments come to pass. And the merchants of the earth, verse 11, shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore. And I was thinking, as Trump was doing this tariff thing, this is very well the thing that could portend for this break off in trade and cutting off U.S. Products from the world in maybe spite, anger, a bad trade deal all the way around. Trump, of course, is a great nationalist. He puts America before God, I believe, but he has good instincts, I'll grant him that, but this is the way it could very well turn out. I believe it's shaping up to be that way, and people should heed the warning that America will not be this trading partner, and there will be that in combination with God's judging it for its evil, and also cutting it off from the rest of the world, so that the merchants of the world will look on and see this trading partner and say, oh Lord, what has happened to Babylon the Great? And Babylon the Great may be a reference to New York City, maybe, I believe it's just a reference to the entire country, both the East and West Coast, trading from the Orient, from Europe and China and all these other places, that, it's all cut off, and then America is just down she goes. And that is, I'd say, the Bible says, cut off like a stone thrown into the ocean. That is probably what the fate of the country is. So, merchants of the merchandise, their merchandise of gold, silver, precious stones, fine white linen, purple silks, ivory, brass, iron, marble. In other words, cinnamon, ointments, cosmetics, wine, oil, flour, and on it goes. Sort of these refined products that are sort of symbols of wealth, and precious stones, and fine linen, all these sort of things. These will all be taken away. These objects, these objects of wealth and prosperity that the country will be famous for. Okay, may still have technology to a degree it can work on, but all the niceties of life and the wealthy will all be gone away because of the break in trade. Okay. Now all who would allegorize a problem, Babylon, and there are those in the church that would trying to make it somehow mysterious, that this Babylon is something that we haven't seen yet, something that comes back to life. It might be, like I say, the empire. It might be some part of the Middle East. It might be a different trading zone in the Middle East. All these people that do that and try to allegorize it, they have a problem with all these, because these are all very specific, precise details of a place, of a country, doing what it does uniquely, and the reasons why its downfall is imminent, and why God is bringing these judgments upon it. Okay, so we can't really look, we just can't look about it. Now this should be very, very disheartening to all Bible scholars, because so every time a Bible scholar talks about where America is in prophecy, they don't find it in many places, but it's always something grand and glorious, It's the shining light on a hill, therefore it's like the eagle that comes to rescue Israel, take it into take it south when the enemy, when the devil sends a flood of water after trying to destroy it. America plays a role in taking it to Petra and saving it from Satan and the Antichrist, something like that. They'll always have a grand and glorious role for America in the world, or they say it's part of the young lions of Tarshish. Tarshish was a country on the Spanish coast where many of the precious storings from Solomon's temple were sent, and it went off from Spain to Europe and up to United Kingdom. And people say, well, this is the young lions of Tarshish. There's a great role for them because their descendants, are the British and the American people, that sort of thing. You hear that all the time. It's always great. It's always wonderful. So they are not going to want to hear this at all. They're not going to. No American, no red-blooded American want to hear anything that describes America coming down in such rapid and miserable detail as this. But if you are a believer and you've seen the writing on the wall and you've taken everything into account, this is a wonderful revelation for you, as we shall see coming forward in the next verses. So anybody who allegorizes this Babylon, seeing this American brand be destroyed, the American brand that is all over the world ever since America became an industrial power. There was the motor car, there was washing machines, every TV, every convenience came from America, and then there's all the products on your pharmacy shelf and products, Palmolive, Tide detergent. It was all over the world. It's like this is the great brand of the world. People just think America's the leader and everything, and it still goes on today, even with Apple. With Apple, Google, AI, America's leading the way in all this technology. So they think it's still there forever. They're absolutely convinced. The world will embrace it, no questions asked. In a way, it's sort of like, let's see. Well, forget it. Hold on for a second. The world got no questions asked. It's like 1945. This is the way it happens. Then it says in verse 14, the fruits that thy soul have lusted after are departed. The merchants who were made rich by her have stood off afar. For the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, has reached up to heaven. In 1 hour, verse 18 it says here, in 1 hour she shall come to naught. Shipmasters, sailors, stand off afar. What is like unto the great city that is destroyed? They'll wail for her demise, for her destruction. And when the ship in Baltimore, you may remember a few years ago, crashed into the bridge in Baltimore Harbor, it had such an effect on the whole commerce of the East Coast that it was devastating. It's just one ship, one port, but all up and down the East Coast, everything was thrown into chaos. And this is sort of what will happen when the shipping lanes, when all the commerce is disrupted in a major way, which will happen, because Trump is talking tariffs, and the whole thing with the tariffs will be something to boost America's standing in the world and try to prop things up. But there will be a rift. I'm sure this is portending in these verses that there will be a terrible rift among the traders of the world. They will act out of spite and not deal with America, not trade with America. But when that happens, when they buy their luxury goods no more, when they don't trade in cars and different technologies and equipment and all that, then there will be a terrible, terrible collapse of the economy, and America will be destroyed as a Babylon, like when Isaiah, when the prophet said that Babylon will be like a stone thrown into the sea, and old Babylon will never rise again, and this Babylon will be destroyed forever. But the good news is coming. Okay. 1 hour, you come to naught, ship and master. More despair, weeping, wailing, all minds rich from the ships and their earth cargo, probably ruined. Rejoice. At this point, verse 20, here it is. Rejoice, heaven, apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. So here it is. Rejoice. God saying, rejoice. I'm going to avenge you on the America, this Babylon, which will be oppressing you and tormenting you as believers, as saved believers, after the time of the rapture. Now, how do I know it's after the time of the rapture? Let's see. Mighty angel took a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea with great violence. And shall that great city Babylon, New York, be found no more. The voice of the harpers, the musicians, trumpeters, pipers, no more big stadium concerts, no more sound of the millstone, no more workers. Light of your candle has gone out, and a voice of the bridegroom says, no more. The voice of the bride and the bridegroom is heard no more. Verse 23, that's the key verse. The voice of the bride and the bridegroom is heard no more, so the rapture has happened. Christ has taken his bride well before this, and there is a time where they are under the thumb of this horrible secular or godless government that will come back. You think they're a little bit thrown back on their heels right now? Believe me, they are not down for long. They will regroup. God never sleeps and Satan never sleeps. They will regroup and come back with a vengeance. So, mark my words, that is going to happen. So, that's why it is so vital. There is only one means of escape for the church, and that is the rapture. Otherwise, just go through the torment, the agony. There'll be so many martyred after the church is gone, in America especially. And I believe that right after the church is raptured in America, there will be a time when this is finally brought to an end, and the saints that are still stuck in America can rejoice to say God has avenged us on the wicked in this country. Then there'll be a little pause, and then the tribulation will begin in earnest. So that is the good news for us, and that is the reason why I have to tell people to always pray for the rapture, always look up, always live your life as if you're living in a rapture mode, ready to go at all times. And I'll say that over and over again, because the book of Revelation, I don't think there's any doubt, this chapter, the 18th chapter as well as the 17th chapter, which talks about commercial Babylon, in other words, the financial markets, and how all that's coming to go down. This is the cultural Babylon. This is the city of Babylon, the one that deceived and tormented the whole world with its false doctrines, with its false religion, with its false government, with its twisted, perverted government that started out with a great hope. The only thing that's holding it together has always really been Israel. But now, even that will fall away. But Isaiah said, I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease. One of my favorite verses. Because it's like, you just cannot bring these people to their knees. You just can't bring this culture that loves itself so much, that thinks that everything is, even its faults make it great. Can you believe that? You think of the culture that spreads out throughout the whole world, and you think, why does the world adopt American culture so much? Because it's sold the whole world on itself so masterfully. Why, for instance, would a peaceful country somewhere else in the world that doesn't have the kind of racial problems that America has adopt or listen to rap music? Violent rap music talks about inner city misery and violence. Why would that be appealing? It really doesn't make much sense. Other countries have their own cultures. Everybody has their own, culture and traditions that are noble, and fine. Why do we go for this constantly? You can separate yourself from them. God says, "Come out, come out." That's what He says. Come out of there. Be not partakers of her sins. Don't be part of late-term abortion. Don't be part of human sex trafficking. The sex trafficking, the worst in the world in the U.S. Don't be part of torturing babies on their birthday, killing them in their birth, and extreme violence and corruption. Don't get comfortable with all these things, because you've got to be separate from the world. You have to be pure. You have to be transformed inwardly, completely, born again, totally born again. So, rejoice, ye apostles and prophets, God has avenged you on her. The mighty angel took up a stone, and the great millstone, threw it into the sea with great violence, so the city shall be done. Voice of harpers, that is a light of a candle gone out, no more shining city on the hill. Voice of the bridegroom gone. Most have been taken in the rapture, like I say, and the merchants were gone, and that the forward hand was for the word of the prophets and the saints and all that were slain upon the earth. God has finally judged Babylon for you, and you are finished. It's a great story. It's a great encouragement. It's where we have to place our trust now. Don't listen to the false prophets that try to puff up America and say that it's Brussels, or it's the revised Roman Empire, or the Holy Roman Empire coming back to life. Any of those things. This is the best explanation I have ever seen. And hope you enjoyed this video. It's Pastor Allen, Veritas Triumphant Church. Please give it a like and subscribe so we can reach more people and get out these great messages, because this is the kind of food for the soul that you need at this time. And spread this message to your friends. Let them know what is happening. You're not going to hear this, definitely. You're not going to hear this from pastors that I have ever seen. This is new territory. This is virgin soil as far as revelation and Bible prophecy. So keep that in mind. And let's see, we also want to let you know we are at VeritasTriumphant.com. That's our website. Gordon Allen, Pastor Allen at Facebook, and Veritas Triumphant Church on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time soon. Until then, Pastor Allen, Veritas Triumphant Church, and God bless you.